Before we can move forward with the more complex projection work, we need to spend some time talking about transparency and what that means for projections. Because if you're going to be doing anything significant in projections, you have to have a good understanding of alpha channels and transparency. And really, it's the transferring of these alpha channels from Photoshop into Nuke and making sure that your image looks the same as in Photoshop as it does in Nuke. And so there's several different ways of doing that. And we're going to be talking about all of those. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to be showing you some of the project files that we're going to be working with. So to understand alpha channels and transparency, we need to talk about the other channels that make up all digital images, and that is RGB, or red, green, and blue. So if you look at this image on the top left here, it's a woman standing in a forest. She has a red jacket. If we look at the channels here, these channels are just grayscale information, and the lighter the value, the more of that color is going to show through. So if we look at green here, her jacket is very dark, so there's not a lot of green in her jacket. We look at blue, very dark, not a lot of blue in her jacket. We look at red, it's very bright, and indeed her jacket is very red. You look at the trees in the background here. In the red channel, these trees are kind of darker color when compared to the blue channel. The blue channel is quite a bit lighter. And so you do look back here, and yes, they are kind of this bluish tint to these trees. And then you look at the pants, and they're dark on every single channel. That means there's not a lot of color information there. That means it's going to be black. And depending on the file format of your digital image, you can have a fourth channel, which is the alpha channel. And this alpha channel looks a lot like these channels here, are red, green, and blue. It's grayscale, and the lighter the value, the more of the image that we see through, and the darker the value, the less of the image that we see through. All right, so let's talk about the transparency methods, or how you get transparency from Photoshop into Nuke and it look the same. So that's really your goal. You're working in Photoshop, you want it to look the exact same in Nuke when you break up all your different layers. And so I'm going to be talking about 4 different methods for doing that. So the first method is a premultiplied alpha. The second one is an unpremultiplied alpha. And the third one is a separate alpha. And the fourth one is what I call an ugly image alpha. And actually, I didn't really term that phrase. That was back in Matte World Digital days. That was a name that they had. A lot of people have different names for this last one. But we'll be talking about each one of these and describing the qualities of each. So first on our list is the premultiplied image, or the premultiplied alpha, to the image. And so the way this works is that you have your original image right there. There's nothing that's cut out about it. You create a alpha mask right there, and you cut out your image. So when you add both of these two together, this is what you get, a premultiplied image. And it is cut out, and the pixels that used to be behind here, the sky and the buildings and stuff like that, that used to be there no longer exist in the file. So they're absolutely gone. And that's what a premultiplied image is it's taking the alpha channel, it's applying it to the image, and then it's deleting all of the pixels. So next on our list is the unpremultiplied image. So that's where you have your original image, and you have a separate alpha channel, or a black and white grayscale image that's saved into the alpha channel spot in your file. And then when you save it out, this is the image that you have. You have the full image, and it looks like your original image. And if you were to look into the file, or have a way of looking at the file's alpha channel, then you would see this. So it's kind of this extra, the alpha channel is sitting in the file and it lives in the file, but when you open the image, you can't really tell that it has like that separate alpha channel until you pull it out and apply it. So unlike the premultiplied image, this unpremultiplied image has not cut out the background yet. So all of those background pixels that was cut out in the previous slide are still here. So this represents an unpremultiplied image. The third way to deal with alpha channels is to have a completely separate file that is your alpha channel or will be used as your alpha channel. So the idea is this, is that you have one file that's your original image, and then you have a second file that is the mask. And when I say mask, this image here is still an RGB image. And when you take both of these into Nuke, you can take this black and white RGB image and shuffle out one of the RGB channels into the alpha channel and then apply it to this tree. So this method, even though it takes a bit longer to do, sometimes when you're dealing with studios and their color workflows and stuff, this is a really safe way of dealing with your alpha channels. The fourth way to deal with your alpha channels is to create an ugly image with an alpha channel. So think of it as if you were starting out with a pre-multiplied image where you no longer have the image in the background. So you want to have a separate alpha channel though in your image. So you want it to be an unpremultiplied image. So how are you going to do that? What you could do and how you make an ugly image is to take this image and duplicate it on top of itself multiple times. And when you do that, you have all of these semi-transparent pixels along the edge of your image. Those semi-transparent pixels become 100% opaque. So as you're duplicating them on top of there, those transparency pixels start building up on top of each other until they're opaque. So the result is that you get an ugly image. So this is kind of what it looks like in this little detail right here, where all those things on the edges get added up together. So now that you have this kind of image where all of the edges are looking ugly, now you can take your separate alpha channel and then apply it to it, and it will look nice and clean.